Hello,
Hello,
book two.
book two.
We all said it in unison. How gay.
I'm getting used to the
Yes, well, the
countdown.
MacBook gives you a little countdown. And, oh.
Somebody's going to chew on my foot. Oh, there she goes.
There's a puppy in the background of both these videos. I don't know if she'll join us up here again. But anyway, now we're going to do new books with Deb. Because I've got a stack of new books. It's not unboxing. We won't be dealing with envelopes and cardboard, but they're still new, including 2 new paperback releases. There's this one, Will's Red Coat, which apparently is the story of a crusty old man who loses his heart to a miniature schnauzer. So
It'll be fictional.
Oh yeah, I should hand these off to you, shouldn't I? The next one is a paperback release of The President Will See You Now. This is by Peggy Grand, who was President Reagan's secretary when he left office. He had an office in California where he just saw people and conducted business and worked on his memoirs and whatnot. And she was his secretary and wrote a very affectionate memoir of his last, what it turned out to be, the last time that he was a person in public life. And I was very happy to see the paperback. And there's a blurb by Open Letters Monthly. There's a blurb that reads, this book is a tale very much worth reading. The author is exactly the kind of sunny storyteller that, in fact, Reagan himself was. The warm glow of her memory suffuses these pages, and the books fill a lacuna in Reagan's long public life. And I stand by that. So there you go. The President Will See You Now. And then there's this. Rise and Kill First by Ronan Bergman, which is a story of Israel's targeted assassinations, where it would be decided that so-and-so is an enemy of the state of Israel and they would be murdered. State-sponsored murder. A very complex and touchy subject. And I have heard wonderful things about this book, and I haven't read it yet. So, good Lord, though, look at all these blurbs. Jeez Louise. So what have we got here? From the acclaimed journalist who first broke the news that Trump disclosed classified information supplied by Israeli espionage agencies to the foreign minister in the Oval Office, comes this new book. The Talmud says, if a man comes to kill you, rise early and kill him first. That's Jewish scriptural lore. Whereas in Irish society, it's your mother who tells you that. And she leaves out the part about if he's coming to kill you. Just kill somebody if they annoy you. It's not institutional. It's this instinct to take every measure, even the most aggressive, to defend the Jewish people is hardwired into Israel's DNA. From the very beginning of its statehood in 1948, protecting the nation from harm has been the responsibility of its intelligence community and armed services. And there is one weapon in their vast arsenal that they relied on to thwart the most serious threats, targeted assassinations. So a touchy subject. And I've heard, I haven't read the book, but I've heard that it's done really well here. So I will read it and report back. And then, what do we got here? Oh, okay. This next one I've actually reviewed. This is just a finished copy that I'm very happy to have.
Oh, pretty.
Yeah, it's pretty. So
yeah.
It's stained glass. It's the new translation of St. Augustine's Confessions, which I have reviewed already for Open Letters Review, the new version of Open Letters, where you get a new Steve review every day. And I reviewed this one. The translation is by Peter Constantine, and it's a very conversational. It reminds you that the Confessions is a very conversational book. There's a great quote that in the Confessions, Augustine's back is turned firmly to the reader. He's conversing with God. He's not telling you about his conversation with God. He's just having a conversation with God, and you get to read it. And I love that. And I'm not quite sure I agree with it, but I love it. I love that because that definitely is true in parts of the Confessions, and it's a new translation. We're going 2 years now. Last year had a new translation. This year has a new translation.
I've never read it.
Talk about a classic to read. Oh, and then It's a YA novel and I couldn't resist. It's hashtag Pretty Boy Must Die by Kimberly Reed. And the tagline is, say hello to your next favorite action hero. He broke the internet, but can he save the world? Couldn't resist. What happens when an undercover CIA prodigy accidentally becomes an internet sensation? When Peter Smith's classmate snaps a picture of him during a late-night run at the track, Peter thinks he might be in trouble. When she puts that photo along with the caption, "See Pretty Boy Run," Peter knows he's in trouble. Frida, no. Every single item from my kitchen has now been triumphantly dragged into this room. Every single item. The thumping that you heard a minute ago was a 1-pound schnauzer somehow managing to get the refrigerator into this room. Every single thing from my kitchen is now in this room, on the floor, because we're not patting her.
And we would if she would jump up
If
here.
she would be a nice dog, but no. Anyway, so hashtag Pretty Boy Must Die. His picture gets outed on social media, and he's the last person in the world who should have his picture on social media. So it sounded like too much fun to pass up. So I'm going to give it a try. And then what have we got next here? Oh yes, this is an Icelandic thriller, The Legacy, by Yrsa Sigurðardóttir, Sigurðardóttir. I believe the accent is on the first syllable of her last name. But she did a whole bunch of, a whole series of novels about an Icelandic detective. And this is the first book in a new series of hers, which attracted me to it because I haven't read all the old ones. It's the first installment in a fantastic new series featuring psychologist Freya and police officer Holdar. The only person who might have the answers to a baffling murder case is the victim's 7-year-old daughter, found hiding in the room where her mother died. But she's not talking. She's mute with trauma. Newly promoted and out of his depth, Detective Holdar turns to Freya for her expertise with traumatized young people. Freya, who distrusts police in general and Holdar in particular, isn't pleased, but she's determined to keep the little girl safe. And the killer is out there and leaving them clues. So sounded intriguing.
Best crime novel of the year.
Best crime novel of the year, Icelandic Crime Authors Association. So those of you who are in Iceland, I'm assuming you're going to tell me that this author is extremely famous because of her previous series of books, which I think are being... Have they been televised? What are the...
Scott.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. And they... what's the name of the detective of the earlier books? Thora Gudmundsdóttir. Thora Gudmundsdóttir is the name of the character. They were bestsellers, and and films are currently in production of those, I think. Frida, stop it. Cut it out. But this also seemed tremendously intriguing, so I had to grab it. Then the next one, right up Steve's alley. This is Art of the Northern Renaissance. You can see the gold lettering there of the title, by Stephanie Porras, which is all about that's the famous a famous painting from the Northern Renaissance. That has the flattened skull that you need to see in perspective, or you won't know that it's a skull.
Where is it?
It's this thing right here.
Oh.
It's a human skull, but it's an optical trick that the painter put in there. And I know the Northern Renaissance backwards and forwards because of Erasmus. So I saw this, and it's so lovely.
Plus you were there. Somebody heard a noise outside, and Deb and I are just roadkill when that happens. Yeah. Will you behave yourself? What's the matter with you? We're making a video. Sorry. Anyway, we only got a couple more books, and then we'll be done. So this next one is the finished copy of this thing. This is by Ulrich Rolf, and it is Farewell to the Horse. Isn't that lovely? That is just lovely. And I haven't read it, but it's a book about what the author describes. I haven't read all of it. I read a huge chunk of it, and then searched around for the original, for the untranslated version. Because the author's idea is that this is the last century that our 7,000-year relationship with the horses will exist in its current form. And I think he's absolutely right. He points out at the beginning of the book that at the turn of the 20th century, there were like 130,000 horses in New York City. There was a whole cottage industry of people whose only job was to remove the waste product of... Hello, Frida. Wie geht's, meine Schatzi? That's all right. All right. Well, those of you who are constantly clamoring for more Deb and more Frida, you're certainly getting your money's worth in these two videos because they're all over the place here. But the author's point is that the time when humanity needed horses for any kind of mechanical labor is over. Even the poorest places now are mechanized. Horses are crucial almost nowhere, and are financially counterproductive in agriculture. The minute you have access to technology that's mechanized, you'd be crazy to use horses. And that I think that's fascinating because that hasn't happened with the core group of domesticated animals that made it possible for human beings to be human beings. The horse is the first one we're losing. The cattle will never go anywhere. They're an essential staple of You're going to stay there, aren't you? You're not. She's not actually making her way down to the floor. She's just being really obnoxious. Anyway, as I was saying, cattle aren't going anywhere, and pigs aren't going anywhere as food items. Their industrial farming is, I think, locked in. I don't think they're going anywhere. And dogs, of course, aren't going anywhere, although there's one I can think of at the moment that I kind of wish would go somewhere. And I suppose you could include cats in that core list. Nobody knows what cats do for humans, but they don't appear to be going anywhere. But the horse? What do we do if we don't need horses anymore for their labor? What do we do if we don't need horses for horsepower anymore? If nobody does, then what happens to them? I just think
after the apocalypse, won't we need them again?
Which is any day now.
Yeah. Could be happening moments from now.
I'll have to hope. Anyway, we get to end on a happy note because we get to end on a book that's just pure fun. This is Mark Greeny's Agent in Place, a gray man novel about an intelligence operative who in earlier books, the book where it happens is just fantastic. He's a specter. He's a spook. He kills people for the American intelligence agencies until one day he realizes that a hit has been put out on him by his own bosses. He has been sanctioned. And the only thing that allows him to survive is that he's the best at what he did for a living anyway. So he becomes the gray man. He becomes this man who is completely persona non grata with extreme prejudice from the people who used to be his spook handlers. So he's able to take on any kind of wet work without any accountability whatsoever. And then in a later novel, everything he makes nice.
So this is a series.
It's a series, yes. And I honestly thought that there was no possible way that he could come back in from the cold, because how would you trust the people?
Right.
The novel where it happens is really well done, and then we just keep going. And Mark Greene, I mentioned him before. I might have mentioned him to you because he's one of Tom Clancy's executive. Yeah. One of the people who there are two people who continue Tom Clancy, and he's one of them.
Right.
And he's so good as a men's adventure, high octane, multiple rounds per minute action adventure writer. There's just nobody better currently working today. So if you like that sort of thing, you're going to get one page into Agent in Place and think, I can't stop reading. So, and there you have it. So that was an extremely interrupted new books with Deb. Should we try to do a Steve Pyramid, or is she going to interrupt us?
Steve Pyramid?
But Steve, she doesn't watch my videos. Nobody watches my videos. The people I know in real life don't watch my videos, even though they know I'm a preening egomaniac. Yeah, I make a pyramid of books when I'm done talking.
All right, let's do it.
There's Agent in Place. There's Farewell to the Horse. There's Art of the Northern Renaissance. There's The Legacy. Oh. There's yes.
Oh, you've
Okay.
got a bunch over there.
I'll have a bunch over here. Oh god. So we don't want to do the paperbacks thing because that'll destabilize it.
All
There's hashtag Pretty Boy Must Die. I'll report back. Let's see if the book is as much fun as the title. New translation of St. Augustine's Confessions. Rise and Kill First. The President Will See You Now in paperback. And Will's Red Coat. Is that Will? Yeah, Will's Red Coat. About an old coot who falls in love with a miniature schnauzer. A well-behaved miniature schnauzer, I assume, if there is such a thing. She's now digging for stuff. And you might think, well, how can she possibly be digging for stuff? Don't you live in a house with a wooden floor? Yeah, I do. That's why Deb and I have to go. Because the dog is now digging for more things to destroy. We're going to say goodbye now.
All right.
Deb will be back.
And by the way, I am 100% on target for reading all the books this year.
She has a grand plan to read a number of books this year. And I've been giving her a ration of crap because in her 175 years on Earth, she has made approximately 950,000 grand plans. And let's think. Let's calculate. How many of them have you actually done? Let's see. You know, the number she's actually done was actually a gift to us from the Arabic cultures. It's called 0. She's done 0. Her grand plans have come to 0.
No, my grand plan was to marry you 4 times, and I've done that.
Oh. Neither Ernest
And
Borgnine nor I wants
divorced
to be
you
reminded of that. If you manage to pull this off, I will be the happiest person in the world. So yes, encourage her all you like, and I'll also leave the link to her Twitter down below. She's still ignoring it because she doesn't have anybody tweeting to her.
Yeah.
All she does on Twitter is make fun of me
Yeah.
for being sexist. Because you want to get me hashtagged again.
I almost created the hashtag myself today.
Yeah, but it's not true. It's not true at all. I don't think that women are useless annoyances. I think you're a useless annoyance. Okay. That's different.
Right.
You can practically hear her on video. She's digging. Hear that sound? That's my dog digging. What did you do to her? I was away.
I broke her.
Anyway, we're going to go. We're going to go. I remember I will leave the link to Deb's Twitter down below so you can all follow her. You get
and tweet me.
She likes being tweeted too. If she's not ignoring Twitter because of the normal reason that old people ignore Twitter because it's newfangled. You're perfectly happy with newfangled stuff. She's ignoring it because there aren't enough people involved. If she thought that you were involved, she wouldn't ignore it. So pay her some attention so she gets off my back. Anyway, we're gonna go. She'll be back because you're gonna talk it again, right?
Yeah,
we'll do another. This is just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable how bad this little dog is misbehaving. I wonder if I can turn the camera to show you. I bet I can. That is the floor of this room. That is what this little dog has been doing while we have been making a video. When we started these 2 videos, Deb and I were both ravishing brunettes. Anyway, we're going to go and clean up, but we'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.